So what is Ray Dalio and Bridgewater and Associates, the biggest hedge fund on planet Earth, what do they know that the average American does not? It's Friday, November 22nd, 2019. Ray Dalio, who manages the biggest hedge fund in the entire world, Bridgewater and Associates. Ray Dalio, the 25th wealthiest man in America. What does he know? What does his hedge fund know? Well, the Wall Street Journal came out with an article today. World's largest hedge fund is reportedly betting on a sell-off. So they know something that most Americans know. Most of you watching this do know because you're awake and you do know a massive sell-off is coming. The article goes on to say this. Reports say the largest hedge fund in the world staked more than $1 billion that global equity markets will fall during the next 3 months. The bet uses put options assembled over months by Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley that give investors the option of selling stocks at a predetermined price by a given date. The firm paid about $1.5 billion for the contracts, about 1% of Bridgewater's $150 billion in total assets under management. Ray Dalio, I don't agree with everything he says or believes in, but one thing you cannot take away from him is his success and his intelligence. Ray Dalio knows we're in a trade war. He knows we're in a technology war. He knows we're in a geopolitical war, and he believes we will be heading into a capital war. And what fascinates me is when you look at people like Ray Dalio and people who are real savvy with what's happening in the markets, in the world economy, the global economy, and then you take the average American who's been drinking the Kool-Aid for many, many years. The average American who watches cartoons, reality TV, the average American who's more worried about their new vape pen than their retirement, more worried about watching a football game than their pension. And so we have too many Americans watching cartoons and reality TV who just don't care what happens to America. And unfortunately, at some point, they're going to care a whole bunch when this whole thing comes down. Again, the majority of Americans are unprepared for the dangers coming to America. When you look at people like Ray Dalio, when I look at people like you guys who are awake and preparing, and I compare us to the average American, oblivious. They're totally oblivious. They're like zombies. All you have to do is just take a look the next time you're out at the grocery store. Heaven forbid you're at a Walmart. I no longer shop there. But I'm sure if you go to your local mall, just take a look at the average American today. Very slow. They can barely even walk a straight line. Most are obese. Most can't even speak one complete sentence without mumbling. This is where we're at as a country. And this is why I believe that this collapse is going to be even worse than we can even imagine, because the health of America is in very bad shape. The physical, mental, and spiritual health of America is in terrible shape. And when the tough times come, if you can't rely on your spirit, your physical body, or your mental brain, how are you going to survive? And these people are ill prepared financially for what's coming. And so I just think that this is going to be horrific, because when I look at the average American, and this is not to judge anybody, I am just being observant. These are my observations. Take a good look at your fellow Americans. Most are just absolutely comatose, walking zombies living in the matrix. And these people are going to stand zero chance of survival when this thing hits. And again, these are the people we will be dealing with during an economic collapse. People who are addicted to pharmaceutical drugs, illegal drugs, people who are addicted to their cell phones. These people will have physical outbursts if their phones do not work. And the worst thing is going to be when people can no longer eat. Most people live on a diet of garbage, a diet of junk food. This is why we have an obesity epidemic in America. Go to your local Walmart. I will no longer shop at Walmart, but when you go there, the average weight of a human being is 300 plus pounds. And what are these people going to do when they can't eat? They are going to be absolutely out of their minds, deranged. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. Very wild times are coming to America, and I hope you're ready. Since we're talking about the average American, let's talk about the average American consumer. There was an interesting article that came out today on Breitbart. Consumer sentiment unexpectedly jumps higher. And it really makes you question these government statistics, because they can tell you about unemployment being at all-time lows, consumer sentiment being at all-time highs, but when we look at the data, it's very hard to believe a lot of these government statistics. So consumer sentiment now is back up. I think it said that it was up near the 2017 highs, but we know that 70% of Americans are struggling. 58 million jobs here in America pay less than $793 a week, and most of those jobs do not have benefits. 50% of all American workers make less than $33,000 a year. We have a record high in auto delinquencies. We just witnessed the worst decline in U.S. industrial production. The Atlanta Fed is projecting fourth quarter GDP to be 0.3%. We have no phase one deal with China. The Fed is back to massive quantitative easing. 2008, in my opinion, is going to look like a Sunday picnic to what is coming. There's an article here in my in the desert here, in my local paper, the Desert Sun, and it's titled, "We'll all miss the Palm Desert Mall if it closes." I did a video there probably 6 months ago because I was alarmed with the amount of vacancies at the mall. This mall was built in 1982. It's somewhat of a landmark in the area. And now it's in my local paper that the entire mall may be closing down. The Sears store, one of the biggest anchor stores of that mall, will be closing February of 2020. There's a JCPenney's there, which, I think their stock's around $1.08 right now. It's on borrowed time. There's a Charlotte Russe there on borrowed time. Many of these stores are on borrowed time. Right now, at least somewhere between 15 and 20% of that mall is vacant. And it's really sad to see the erosion taking place here in the U.S. economy. But I'm being told everything's okay, but I see vacant stores, vacant office buildings everywhere. And now they're telling me to get ready. I may see a vacant mall in my local area here, but everything is going well. Washington Post: personal loans are growing like a weed. A potential warning sign for the U.S. economy, but we're being told everything is good. I don't know if there's a bigger red flag right now than what I'm about to tell you here regarding personal loans. Personal loans are up 10% from a year ago. That's according to data Equifax. Experts are surprised to see millions of Americans taking on so much personal debt at a time when the economy looks healthy and paychecks are growing for so many American workers. Paychecks may be growing, but they're not growing as fast as the rate of inflation here. If your paycheck is growing 2 or 3% a year, it's not keeping up with the 8 or 10% in inflation, real inflation, the kind that you see at the grocery store or with your rent payment or your mortgage payment, or at the car lot, or with college tuition or private school tuition, or when you go shopping for a pair of shoes. It's not keeping up with that inflation, but everything's good. So we have all these people working now in the service sector for Uber and Lyft. All these people getting no benefits. Everybody making $10 or $12 an hour, and now everybody having to pull out personal loans for different reasons. But we have 60-year lows in unemployment, and we have paychecks growing. We have a workforce growing. Everything is good. Personal loans are unsecured debt, meaning there is no underlying asset like a home or car that backs the loan if someone cannot repay it. The average personal loan balance is $16,259. And who are the people taking these type of loans? More than likely, people who work in the service sector, people like the people working for Uber and Lyft, those type of jobs where they have no benefits. And as soon as you have a medical emergency and now you have medical bills that you cannot pay, you need a personal loan. When you have another kind of emergency, like a car repair, making $10 or $12 an hour isn't going to pay, for an $800 car repair or a $2,000 transmission repair. So people are now forced to go to personal loans and get themselves into even more trouble. Personal loan balances over $30,000 have jumped 15% in the past 5 years. We shouldn't be seeing this if the economy is booming. If we have a real solid, healthy economy, we should not be seeing this. Consumer sentiment is strong while consumer debt is at record levels. We have a total contradiction here. More than 20 million Americans have unsecured loans. Total outstanding personal loan debt stood at $115 billion in October. And then we take in some other loans, like auto loans, $1.3 trillion, credit cards, almost $1 trillion, student loans at $1.6 trillion. Personal loan debt is now approaching 2008 levels at the 2008 peak. So not only are people getting inundated with personal loan debt, we have auto loan debt, we have credit card debt, and we have student loan debt, and the list goes on. There's just massive amounts of debt out there. And now with all these personal loan companies out there, just tempting people to come in and borrow even more to cover their other debts. This thing is completely spiraling out of control. We know that the U.S. economy is being propped up by the consumer. The consumer must continue to consume to keep this whole consumption going, to keep this whole economy of consumption moving forward. And the consumer is acquiring more and more debt on a daily basis to keep this economy propped up. And debt is helping the consumer to spend to keep this whole thing propped up. And I believe this is going to end very, very badly for America. Many people have run up so much in credit cards that they now have to take out one of these personal loans just to manage their debt, the debt that they ran up in credit cards. People are getting tapped out with credit cards, so they have no other option but to go to a personal loan. Also, people have, again, medical debt, so they have to take out personal loans for that. Like I said earlier, auto repairs, emergencies. Somebody loses a job, husband or wife loses a job, now they're down to one income. Guess what? We got a mortgage to pay, we got car payments, we got to get a personal loan and hope that someone gets a job here in the next couple weeks. Some are using these loans and credit cards to survive. They now have two payments, meaning that they're living off credit cards and they're living off personal loans, both of them combined. This is very, very dangerous, but this is the new normalization of America. As things get worse, we're going to start seeing delinquencies in personal loans. And this is another bellwether to watch. When we start seeing the delinquency rate, I think the delinquency rate is only about 4.5% in personal loans right now. We start seeing that number rising. That's going to be a telltale sign that things are starting to spiral out of control. This recession is starting to expedite at a much quicker pace. There's multiple bellwethers out there right now. Many of them are flashing red right now, and we need to be paying attention to that. Look, the stock market is not the bellwether for the economy. It is completely detached from reality. But when we start looking at, household debt at record highs, when we see delinquencies in auto loans taking place, when we start seeing, $115 billion in personal loans, being pulled out for Americans. These are all warning signs. When we look at almost $1 trillion of credit card debt floating out there, it's another warning sign. There's so many warning signs. Again, we can look at what's happening in the PMI, in the service sector, PMI in manufacturing. We can look at what's happening at the case index and what's happening in shipping and freight. Everything is telling us that we are on a collision course with a Great Depression. We looked at a lot of the retail numbers that have been coming out this week. They're not good. They're very poor. The outlook is bad. And yet they're trying to spin, just think, they're trying to spin everything. They're using everything they can, including the Federal Reserve, to keep everything propped up. Remember, we're witnessing quantitative easing taking place, bank bailouts, everything is being propped up. The day of reckoning is coming to America, and America is going to have to deal with this at some point. The longer it progresses, the worse this crash is going to be. They didn't want to deal with it in '08. So now here we are almost 12 years down the road. It's going to be a much, much greater collapse to deal with. And the average American is going to feel 10 times more pain than they would have felt back in '08 if they would have dealt with it properly. So I'm going to wrap it up right here. Have a phenomenal weekend and make sure that you have balance in your life. Put balance in your life. It's so important. Too many people just dwell on the negativity. They dwell on all these bad things, and we shouldn't do that. We got to have balance. We should be awake and aware of everything that's happening, but we should also have balance and have positivity in our lives. If you're preparing, you shouldn't be living your life in fear. If you're preparing, you should not be paranoid. The reason you prepare is so that you're not fearful or paranoid. The people who will be fearful and paranoid will be the people who are unprepared. And look, there's two sides here. The side of people who are prepared, the other side are going to be people who are unprepared. And unfortunately, this side over here, the unprepared, will be the majority of Americans, the masses. And these will be the people living in fear. These will be the people that will be very paranoid because they did not prepare for the upcoming events. These people right now, the same people who tell us we're wrong, these will be the people that will be living in fear. The people who were too busy watching football, drinking beer, hitting their vape pens, smoking dope, taking massive amounts of pharmaceuticals, the people living their lives in denial, telling us we were wrong, these are going to be the people living in fear and the people who are going to be living paranoid lives day to day when this collapse hits. And many of these people are not going to survive this collapse. I don't think people understand the magnitude to what is coming to America. And this is why I religiously make these videos to continue to reinforce with you that you're not alone, that you're doing the right thing, that this is real, and it has begun. And it is also a message to the people out there who are on the fence, that are now beginning to wake up going, maybe something is wrong here. If you're one of those people, you better open up your eyes and ears right now because you're running out of time. And there's a lot of people out there, because of the people that watch these videos who comment down below with those incredible comments, you have woken up a multitude of people. Not my video, but your comments have woke up so many people, because people start opening up their minds a little bit and common sense comes into play, and they start connecting the dots going, hey, maybe something is wrong here. Maybe I shouldn't be believing everything I see on TV. And because of so many of you people out there, so many of you great people who make such incredible, intelligent comments down below, eye-opening, mind-opening comments, you're waking people up. And so we have to keep doing that. We have a fiduciary duty, even though most people are not going to listen to you or I, but some people are listening. And I believe more people are waking up than a year ago, than 2 years ago, than 3 years ago. More people are waking up and seeing the propaganda that's taking place. They're seeing the agenda that's taking place. So we got to keep our foot on the pedal, and we got to keep moving forward. And so remember, balance in your life, have some fun this weekend, enjoy time with your family and friends, and be thankful to God for everything you have. These people on the other side, the unprepared, these people, they're not walking close to God. These people will be living their lives in fear and paranoia because they are going to be taken by surprise. And at this point, there's going to be no second chances.